Hello and welcome to another edition of Spindle TV. My name is Laney Shaughnessy. I'm your host this evening. How's everybody doing tonight? We haven't been around for the last 2 weeks. I bet y'all were wondering what in the world happened to Laney. Probably weren't, but hey. Tonight, we are going to be working in Vectric Aspire, and we're going to get into some 3D model importing and working with 3D print type models in carving. But before we get into all that, how's everybody doing tonight? In the comment section, love to see what you're up to and say hi. But let me shout out to all of my exclusive members that are joining me live tonight. Look forward to tomorrow night's class with you all. I don't have a topic just yet, but I'll let you know that tomorrow. And tonight I'm working with a very cool project. I want to make a sign for someone, and I thought I would take you along on the journey. It's going to be, I hope, pretty nice. I hope they'll like it and everything, but we'll see. We'll see how that all goes. All right. Let's see what we have going on here. We've got a pretty good crowd tonight. Awesome, awesome. Well, if you're watching me from the YouTube channel, I don't think I'm streaming on Facebook, so never mind. I was going to say, if you're watching from the YouTube channel, you can comment in the chat area. And if you're watching from Facebook, you can comment in the comment section and it'll pop up as well. But I don't think I'm streaming to Facebook tonight. I don't think I set that up. But hope you're doing all right. And Brooks Martin, absolutely. Those inlays are amazing, right? We had a class last week talking about inlays, Brooks, as you're aware of, and it's pretty good. So let's get over to the YouTube channel. Let's get me down real small so I'm not taking up the full screen because the camera's like right in my face. Let's see where we're at. So behind me, we're going to be on camera 2. And then I'm going to move down to the corner. And let me turn off. I think everybody knows my name. So let's see if I can turn off that banner. There we go. All right. So for those of you that have Vectric VCarve Desktop and Pro, most of everything that we're doing tonight is going to be Vectric Aspire, but don't run off because it's good information to have. I want you to be able to kind of see what's going on in case you ever decide to move up to Vectric Aspire. And that way we can, still learn some things, right? Because, I mean, working with the models, creating the toolpaths and everything, that's all still going to apply whether you're in desktop or pro. But with the embossing and everything, that's going to be an Aspire feature only. All right, let me see if I can get rid of this little shadow that's kind of to my right. Give me just 1 second and see if I can adjust my background just a little bit. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so I believe I have some new viewers tonight, and so a very special hello to you all. I hope you come back. We try to do this every other Tuesday night at 7:30 now on Tuesday nights, every other Tuesday. But sometimes, as the viewers can tell you in the chat, sometimes my scheduling conflicts with me and I don't get to do one consistently. Also, a little bit of an announcement. I don't know if I'm still on the schedule. For those of you that know Garrett Fromm, IDC Woodcraft and everything, I believe I'm still on the schedule to be on one of his live events this coming, I believe it's the 24th of April, if I got everything in on time. So be sure to check that out. I don't have the times. I believe it's at 8 o'clock, but I'm not sure. But it'll be a Tuesday or a Wednesday night live event that he has each week. And he has invited me to be a guest. So Garrett, thank you for that. If you happen to see this video, I appreciate it. All right, so the David, sorry I popped up your comment there, but David was saying hello to everyone. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. All right, so let's create a new file. Now for this, when we're importing a 3D model, now this is a low resolution 3D model. It's kind of a 3D print model, and I want to show you where I got it from and everything. And it's a very inexpensive. The thing cost me like $2.30 for the 3D model that I'm going to be working with. And thank you, Keith Kessler, for that. Keith shows that Garrett always starts at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Appreciate that information. But we're going to set up a project that's 24 inches by 18 inches by 1.5 inches thick. And I'm going to be touching off on the material surface, and I'm going to be starting from the bottom left corner. Now, right now, temporarily, I have the model resolution set to the very high resolution, but I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to go back into that set job dimensions and origin. I'm going to hold the shift key down when I do, because I want to change that. Well, let's try to hold down the correct shift key this time. Let's do that. And we're going to click OK. And what that did by holding the shift key is it let me go to an extremely high resolution, because we're going to be working with a low poly model. You can't make a model any better than what it is. You know, whatever it was created in, its resolution, you can't make it better just by being in a high resolution. But working in the highest resolution or a higher resolution will help remove some of the pixelation, and because that pixelation translates over to the quality of the finished carve. The less pixelation, the better the carve, I guess you could say. So yeah, we want to be in a higher resolution. So with that, I've got it set now by the extremely high, which is about 8 million points, 8 million pixels, and that should give us enough resolution. Now let's talk about where I went and got my model. So everybody should be familiar, most everybody is familiar with Yegi. Yegi.com is a great place to find 3D print models and just 3D models in general and stuff. And what I'm actually using is a 3D print model. I'm going to do a Chevy Camaro. It's going to be the ZL1 model. And the model itself is from the website Colts. And each model hosts, you know, I'm sure there's different places that these modelers are coming from and everything, where they're hosting their files and all. And the one I'm getting happens to come from Colts. So when we pop this up and everything, I can see in the windshield that there's just a low poly quality. I can see the triangulation and everything. So it's not going to be the greatest, but we'll see what we can do in the Vectric software to kind of clean it up. But only $2.55 US, very inexpensive for that model and everything. And so I purchased that, and from that purchase, I was able to download the model, and now we're ready to import it. So let's get these off the screen, and let's go ahead and work with this. Now, this is important. Now, this is a 3D print model. Let me just specify this really quickly. This is a 3D print model. We're not 3D printing. We're 3D carving or 2.5D carving. We're kind of doing a boss relief. So I'm going to be taking this three-dimensional model, and I'm going to emboss it into a boss BAS relief. This is going to kind of create that flat carve type model file that I need. And you're going to see when I import this model, it's the Vectric software is going to try to fill all of the open areas with material. And it's going to look very odd when it gets imported in. But the Emboss tool is our magic weapon to change that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get this rocking and rolling. Okay, 1 second. Let me get something to drink. I'm drinking from an invisible bottle. Isn't that just cool? Okay, so here we go. We're going to go to our modeling tools. We're going to import our 3D model, that Chevy Camaro. Now, what's going to be important on this is the orientation, the orientating the model and everything to get the best look. So it's not going to be like your typical model where we go into the Z view, we want to see the top of it and everything, and we're ready to carve, right? That would be a typical, just a regular STL, OBJ, or any other 3D model file that has been designed for CNC carving. This model has been designed for 3D printing. So it is let me see if I can rotate her around here. Oops, wrong way. It is, a full-on 3-dimensional model, okay? And so what I want to do is I want to orientate this to where I get a pretty cool look as a 2D carve, okay? And so I want to go into our top view, and I want to be able to look at this in my top view because I need to be able to orientate it to get that really nice 2D or 2.5D look. And give me just a second here. We got a question. Hey, Lainey mentioned when export a 3D model as an STL, you use what triangulation size and setting? We haven't gotten there yet, Brooks, so we'll get there in just a moment. The size and settings, the resolution is the extremely high, the 8 million pixels. So 20 times slower, extremely high model resolution is where we're at so far. Now, here, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and size it up. I'm going to go about 18 inches. And I'm going to use my orbit here to spin the model to get the, a pretty cool kind of 2.5D look to this. Think about, I'm in a top view now. This is what my sign would look like, and I would have some text down here or maybe up here. I haven't quite thought about what I want to say yet, for the sign, what the text is going to be, right? But we'll come up with something. But the model itself, I want it to be the centerpiece, right? And I want a good angle. So I want to make sure that I turn it in a way that, when it's positioned on the board and all, we've got a pretty, good look. I can see all the detail in the car, right? So if I was, kind of down too far or, spun around, too weird or something like that, it's not going to look good, right? So what I want to make sure of is that I'm in a good orientation to where, sorry, let me shut that off. Bear with me just a second, ladies and gentlemen. I was not prepared. All right, all right. So let's turn that ringer off. There we go. Sorry about that. All right. So with this, we're going to get ourselves orientated. So I'm playing with it a little bit because I really want this. This red box is kind of my outline of my board, right? And so I really want this to lay out nicely. And I'm going to center that. So I'm going to spin it just a little bit more. I think that is going to be the look for me. That's going to be the angle. So I've got this sized up at 19 by 12 and a half, roughly. I've got it centered on my material. And now I'm going to go into the position and import. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And on this, it's a single-sided model. So I want to slide the 0 plane to the very bottom of that model. Okay. Now you can see that 0 plane, that little fog that covers the model. That's the 0 plane, right? And so as I slide it down, you can see that model getting in front of it. So I need that slid all the way down. And I'm not going to create both sides. I want to discard everything that's below the 0 plane. And this is a one-sided model. Now here's where it looks weird. When I import this model, it's going to be funkified. It's going to be like real tall, and it's going to look really strange with all of this wood, this base meat underneath it, right? So the way that the model was positioned in my three-dimensional view during that orientate and import kind of thing, where there's open gap from the, my 0 plane, that material, Vectric is trying to fill it with material. And so it's doing what it thinks it's supposed to be doing. It's kind of filling all the gaps and everything. Now, when I look at this in the top view, it looks exactly like I orientated. You can't see all of that wood and everything behind it, right? So we're definitely not going to be carving that, because right now the model itself is 19 inches tall, thick, right? We can't have that. So what we need to do is we need to try to scale down the Z height of the model while, and Vectric words it whilst, W-H-I-L-S-T, whilst retaining the detail, right? So if I were to just scale the Z height of the model, it's just like flattening a pancake, right? It's just going to flatten it down, and I'm going to lose all the detail. Well, if I use the Emboss tool, this Emboss tool will do its best to scale the Z height down, but it'll maintain the surface detail. And I need to maintain this detail, all the vents in the hood and the lines and everything and the curves and stuff and the tires and all, right? I need to maintain that detail the best I can. So the thing that I want to make sure of is that I size the model down so it fits properly in my material, and I get all the detail that I can out of it. So we've now imported the model. That's step 1. We've got this funky model that we just imported, right? All right, step number 2, we create a copy of the model in the component tree over here. And this is our component, right? So right now what you're looking at on the screen, let's get the terminology laid out for everybody that might be new. What you're looking at on the screen is the composite model, the finished result, right? Over on the left in your component tree are the components that make up the composite model, okay? So I am going to duplicate the component, so I have 2 of them. And now it's just going to jump out at me, right? We've got, 2 of them on top of each other. Well, we're going to turn off the bottom one here. That's going to be, we'll come back to that in just a minute. I'm sorry, we're going to turn off the top one. Let's turn off the top one. We'll come back to that one in just a minute. Now the bottom one is going to be our base. So the bottom one is going to lose its detail. It's going to get sized down to a reasonable size. It's going to have still its shape, but it's going to lose a lot of the detail. The details in the windows and the hood and the grill and all that stuff. They're going to kind of get reduced. But it's going to give us the thickness that we need to complete the model. Now, for those of you that are new, when you combine models together, you have add, subtract, merge, merge low, and multiply. When you add one model to another, it's like taking a bed sheet and draping it over a car. That sheet being flat, once it hits that car, it starts to concave and curve and contour and everything to take on the shape of that car that's underneath it, right? So it conforms to the object that's underneath. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take our embossed model with all the detail, and we're going to drape it over the base model that has all the thickness and shape that we need. And the two combined are going to complete our model, composite model. So let's start here with our base height. Right now, again, like I said, we're 19 inches tall. We need to reduce the height down. So I'm going to go into the model properties, and I'm going to bring it down to a reasonable size. Now, my material is 1.5 inches thick, and I want this thing to, I don't want to try to do it in a 3/4 inch piece of material. I want some depth to the carving, right? So on that 1.5 inches thick, right now my model is 21 inches. I'm going to come down to, let's go 1.25 inches. And when it reduces this model down, you'll see that we've lost, let's look at this closely now. We've lost all of our real good detail, right? So if I look at the model at the side now, it's only 1.5 inches thick at this point. But, you know, we've kind of lost that detail and everything. But that's okay. I want this to be my base. So it still has the general shapes, you know, the shapes of the windows and the windshields and the mirrors and tires and everything. Now I can just start to, you know, put the detail over it. But before I do, I want you to see something here. Because of the way that model was imported and the way I had it orientated, the nose of the car is slightly higher than the back end, right? And what I'd like to do is I'd like to level that out, and that's called tilt. So in the model properties here, and I'll split the view, our 2D and 3D view here. I want to tilt this model. I need to tilt this back end out a little bit. So if I look at it from the front view, I'm really high on the front. If I look at it from a long view, I'm kind of like angled down, right? So I want to see if I can just bring up the back end to level it out. And I'm just going to add a little extra base meat under there. Now, when we are tilting, trying to think about what I'm saying, the wedge that we're sticking in to this model, the thin part of the wedge is going to be where we click at first on our screen. the thick part of the wedge that we're shoving under this model is going to be the second place that I click. And we're going to come in from here, the hood of the car. That's going to be my first click. That's the thin part of the wedge. I don't want to raise it up anymore. Back end is where I'm going to click my second time when I go into the tilt here. And that's what I want to bring up. So we're going to select tilt and I'm going to hit set. And on the screen with that set button, I'm going to go ahead and click over here. Oops, I'm in the wrong view. Let's try it up here in the 2D view. That would help. I'm going to click here on this front end. I'm going to bring it all the way to the back. And I'm going to click again there. Now, if we look at this in our side view, now let's tilt this down just a little bit. As I adjust the degrees here, the that wedge and everything, it's going to start raising that back end up some. So I want to kind of try to get up about the best that I can. That's really, it's only going to let me go about 20 degrees. So I'm going to have to, you know, it's better than it being as low as it was. It's not a much of a raise and everything, but it will have to do. Okay. Now I could try shoving the wedge in this direction. Let me see. Let me take a look here. I could try shoving the wedge in this here. Let's see if I hit set again. Let me try right behind the back of the front tire across the spoiler. That's not going to do much for me either. Yeah, I liked it better the other way. So we're going to hit the set button again. We're going to come back over and I'm just going to go in this orientation just to raise that back end up a little bit. And that's about the best that I'm going to get on this particular model. So I'm happy with that. I just wanted a little bit more meat on that back end. All right, so that completes step 2, creating the base. So we've just created the base. So we can turn that off now. And then we can come in and turn on our copy, our duplicate. Yes, Brooks, I can bake that and I can re-tilt if I wanted to add more. Absolutely. And that's a great question. So Brooks asked the question, can't you bake that and then change and re-tilt? And that's 100%. You're absolutely right. I could do that. So that model basically here, let me get back into full view here. What Brooks is asking or stating, saying, hey, can't you just bake that? That kind of bakes it as it is in the current, style that it is, and then go back and tilt some more, right? So we could go back and we could tilt some more. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . That's a little overkill. Yeah. So levels it out, a lot better. So Brooks, thanks for that. I forgot all about that. So that's why I love you guys and girls that pay attention all the time. You're always reminding me of things. So now with that done, we'll call that one complete. I'll be happy with that as it is there. So now we'll turn on our first model, and the first model is still that tall, unembossed model, right? So this is going to be our detail. So let's get into the full 3D view on this one so you can see what's going to happen here. Now we're going to go into the Emboss tool. Now, this is going to be my tip for the Emboss tool. When you're embossing your models and everything, the scale height. So, I mean, we can scale 1% to 50%, right? But I want you to look at when this model embosses, right? It's trying to maintain as much detail as possible. Well, there's a lot of triangulation in this detail, right? And if we really closely examine what this is, even at 10% detail, let me pull this up here. This is just splinters and splinters of fibers and everything in here that we absolutely do not want in our model, right? But this is the Emboss tool. So it's trying to, it reduced the height down, and it reduced it down to 10% of its original size. And it's trying to maintain all the detail. And this is a low poly model to begin with, meaning it's just a lot of triangulation. It's not really high detail. Now, just so you know, if I would have went to, I paid $2.55 for this model. If I would have went to CG Trader, they're $79, $139, $109, $159 for those models of the, the Camaro 3D print high poly like models, right? And while it's, we have to be able to get, our money out of it, when we're selling the sign or what we're doing and everything. So it's sometimes things like that are impractical. So you're always going to, for the most part, what I've found with the Emboss tool is you're always going to be at 1% for the Emboss tool. And that is going to be the percentage that you're going to bring down when you're bringing in these 3D prints. Now, if you look, lots of triangulation, just crap, right? And everything. Don't get into trying to smooth it all out here or anything. We want to do the smoothing after the entire model's put together. But up to, 10% in this area, the detail smoothing and everything, I wouldn't really go over 10%. This is just going to be a pro tip. I wouldn't do that here in this because we want to be able to leave some room for smoothing when it's all put together, right? And you're going to be tempted, the more I smooth this here in this view, the more that triangulation becomes less visible, right? And, try to stay under 10% in this realm, in the emboss component here. So 1% for the scale height, less than 10 or 10% or less, for the scaling, or I'm sorry, the smoothing. And that will leave you room to, have some smoothing options and stuff after the fact. So let's go ahead and click OK. I'm going to just go 1% and here. And so now I've got this model here. This model's flat. It's like a pancake. There's no detail. So this is the sheet. Remember, we're going to drape the sheet over the base, right? So this is going to be the sheet. So when I come in here and I have this combine mode as add, when we turn on the base, and let me get this kind of full on view, and let me tilt it just a little bit here. When we turn on the base underneath that there, that's going to give us our height, our thickness to the model. So now our model has thickness and everything. It has shape to it and all. Now, as far as this poly framing, super disappointing, right? It's very disappointing to see that. You don't see that in the initial import and everything. But it really comes out after. So it will take some time to, smooth that out, but let's try to create a new component from the visible model here. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a brand new model for me to work with. My two originals, my base and that top layer, are still separated here, but I want to go into another level in my component tree and take this copy up here so I can turn off those originals. And the copy of the visible model here, I'm going to first start with just the smoothing tool to see if I can clean up some of that triangulation. And then there's nothing really, I'm in a very high, extremely high resolution here. There's nothing more I can really do with it. Call it a skin. Some call it a skin. Yes, Brooks. Absolutely. That's skin. The smoothing, the Emboss tool brings out that triangulation, right? The smoothing doesn't really take it away. So the smoothing in those, general areas, I don't want to smooth too much because, I'm going to lose, whatever detail I have if I do try to smooth. So working with a higher resolution model would be the key, right? And the only thing is, from what I was looking at, let me go back to Yegi here. There wasn't a lot of good choices for the particular model car that I wanted. There's an SS, which is not the same, but you can see the triangulation in it just in here. There's really no zoom. I don't think there's, oh yeah, there's. You can see the triangulation in the fender and the hood and everything. And that's, it's a 3D print model. But what you want is try to find, a model with, a model with some decent resolution and everything. And it'll give you more of a fighting chance when you're working with, these projects and stuff. And so this model looks fairly clean. some triangulation, but not too bad. It's $5 US, right? So the give me just a second here. Sorry about that. It's a 2012. I forget what one I downloaded earlier, but we'll take this one and let me switch it over to this screen. Okay. That one's not good either. Well, let me think here. Let me take one more look, see if there's another one. Bumblebee wasn't a, let's see here. No. 19. All right, let's go old school for a second. Give me just 1 minute, folks. Oh, man. One more second. If I can't find one on this next screen. God almighty. Why are 3D prints so low quality? All right, we're going to just work with this one. Let me see what I can do in sculpting. So let's go ahead and preserve the transparency on this. I'm going to, what I'm going to do is I don't want to lose too much of the detail. We're going to take it over to the sculpting tool and let's see what we can do with that. All right, so first thing I want to do is kind of get my orientation right. And let's see what I can do with this windshield. My strength is at 100. And what I'm trying to do is sculpt. Still see some of the lines. I'm going to take the smoothing that where my mouse ran over here. I'm going to take that off. So I'm going to use the undo brush. Run right back up that edge. To undo that, I want to try to maintain some of that detail on that. But for the most part, it did clean up some of those lines. Let me see if we go back to the smoothing. I'm going to turn off the preserve transparency. See if I can just take out. I wish I could change the shape of my brush, but I can only change the size. That's okay. Well, that smoothed it out quite a bit. I don't know how well that translates or shows up on camera, but it did clean up well. Let's go over to this window. I think you can see that triangulation there. We would come over and let's see if we can pull that out. All right. And this is the most tedious part of modeling, is working with, you know, your sculpting tools and everything, and just spending the time that's needed. And this is where starting off with a good source to begin with is good. And unfortunately, you know, when you purchase the model, you just really don't know until you bring it in. And it's okay. But for the most part, on the windows, now this back fender, that's the right, this back fender. Let's see if we can smooth that out, and then we'll kind of move along. We'll put the rest together, and then I'll spend some time cleaning up the model. But let's see if I can pull some of that triangulation out of that model, out of that back fender. Let me turn the preserve transparency back on, see if I can get. No, we're not fading. So if I can, you know, if I can see results, which, you know, I'm seeing in the fender versus, you know, the triangulation that was there versus what is there now, I'll come back and reshape the hind end here in just a second. But if I can come in and let me take the undo brush, just a small brush, and see if I can run it down this edge to put that curve back in. Now, right in this area right here, there's that crease with the fender and everything. And I want to kind of see if I can start kind of shaping that back in. All right, I am a little angled wrong, so that's what I love about the undo brush. I can kind of put it back, re-smooth it out. Oops. And one more time. Let me see if I can, I need to be more down here. This is where I wish I had my pad, tablet and pen. There we go. So if we look at, you know, the difference here versus what it was, if you can recall what it was and everything, that triangulation has been removed. So a little bit of work can get it to where it needs to be. Looking at the computer screen, make sure you have a clean computer screen, because if you got a little spot in there, I keep looking at it thinking, what is that right there? And it's my screen. All right. So on the model here, let's just really quickly, let's kind of right here, clean this up, and then we'll come back into it. So just going to take the smoothing tool, and let's see if I can knock out some of that triangulation. I know this is boring to watch someone just sculpting and doing, you know, a whole lot of nothing back and forth. But let me just assure you that I'm not going to sculpt this entire model now. I'll come back and do it. We're going to finish the model up, the sign itself and everything. And then I'll come dress this up and all. But that really does a decent job there. Kind of smoothing things out. So I will spend time with that, but let's go ahead and finish up the entire model, the design. Even at that, just that little bit, removing that triangulation helped some. I mean, it's not by any means perfect yet. Still want to kind of clean up the dimples in the tires and get them re-rounded back off and everything, add some material in there. But for the most part, taking this 3D print model that wasn't really designed for carving and turning it into a carvable model, not too shabby. So we're going to go ahead and keep those changes. We're going to click OK. Need to add the flare to the rear fender lip for sure, right? So those are things that'll get added back in and all, John. The rear fender lip. We'll do all that in its next cycle. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's build up the rest of this model. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to start with a frame. Let's go to the 2D view for this. And the frame, I'm going to create a little bit of a 2-rail swept profile. So I want the frame around the outer edge to be about 1 inch wide. So I want to offset inward 1 inch, and I want sharp corners on this. So I want those sharp corners on that inside and that outside frame. And then on the profile, I'm actually going to use one of the clip art profiles. And I'm going to use one of the molding profiles here. And it's going to be the molding 6 profile, this profile here. And I need to add a leg to this. So I want to take and bring a straight line straight down. Make sure it's the same height as my profile. I want to join this together, but before I join it together, I want this to be a little bit wider. So I'm going to bump this over, and I'm going to join these two with a straight line. I'm going to give myself a little bit more material up here. And in node editing, I'm going to take these 3 nodes and lower them down just a little bit using the arrow keys on the keyboard. And this node here, I'm going to bring out just a little bit using the arrow key on the keyboard. And I just want to create a fillet, a curve here. So we're going to go with a fillet tool, and I want to put just a bit of a curve there and there. Soften that up just a little bit. Not there. I'll keep that one sharp. Okay. So this is going to be my profile. Now it's important that my profile is 1 inch wide. So I want to take this 1 inch, or this profile here, go to the size tool, and currently it's just 1.09, right? So I'm going to change it to 1 inch wide, and it's currently about 7/8 of an inch tall, and that's fine. Remember, my material is 1.5 inches thick. So now I'm going to go into the modeling tool and use the 2 rail sweep tool. I have these 2 rectangular lines here, and I'm going to select the outside and then the inside, and that's going to be my drive rails. And I want to reverse the rail direction. So I'm going to come down here, and I want to reverse the rail here and here, so they're both going this way. They're sweeping that way, clockwise. And then I want to take this tool here, and I want to apply that. Now, if I did that right, my tall edges should be on the outside, and it should kind of curve down to the inside there on that 2 rail sweep. And let's see what we come up with. All right. Now, it's skewed and twisted. So let's look at what got created in this 3D view. We've got this kind of puzzle thing happening here, right? We don't want that. So the let's come back to the 2D view. And that's what happens when you have something crossed. So let's go back and look at what we actually did here. On this component, if I look at my join tool, it is one open vector. That's good. Nothing wrong there. My drive rail is closed. Beautiful. Okay. Well, we need on this 2-rail sweep, this is a box. It's not really rails, right? It's closed on the ends. So I really need to open them up. And they can't really connect. So let me come over here in node editing and cut the vector here. All right, and let's go back into our modeling. Stand by, there's a delay. Let's get rid of that component. Let's do that one more time, if we will. So we're going to go ahead and select our drive rails. They are both cut. They're both open now. 2-rail sweep. Make sure our drive rails are running in the same direction. Grab our profile. We're going to sweep it between the spans. And we're going to click apply. Okay. And that should give us our result here. Now, I do not want to scale with the cross sections. I want to just sweep that profile across so everything is leveled out like a frame. Okay. You can see right now my frame is much smaller than my model when we're looking there. That'll all get fixed in just a minute. But you can see the frame is coming down. That curved frame is coming down into, let me see if I can get a corner shot of that. It's coming down into that center area. Now here, I'm going to add some base meat in the middle. So let's go ahead and start a new component. We're going to create a shape. Now, right now, my shape height, I'm actually going to create a shape on the entire project underneath and everything. And for the shape height, I'm just going to go 1/4 of an inch. Flat shape, I'm going to add it to the component, but I cannot create a flat shape on an open vector. So before I do, I need to either close this vector back or I need to create a new vector. In this case, I'm just going to join it back. And then we'll go in and apply that. Now what that's going to do is going to put a 1/4 inch layer underneath the entire model here to kind of give it a little bit of a backboard. Right. Now, on the back side of my model, there's not a whole lot of meat here, right? There's not a whole lot of meat, but there is some. I'm going to shave the back of it off. So let's go into here, and I want to turn off my frame for right now. I just want the car to be visible. Okay. And this straight meat underneath here, let me see if I can zoom into that. This straight meat under here, I'm going to shave some of that off. The tires look all funky when you're in the weird view, They don't look like they're supposed to until you're in the top view, but I'm going to shave that back end off. So let's turn off the frame. Now, in Aspire, I have the reduce values below the Z plane tool that, let me turn to the side a little bit, not that much, right about there. When I use this tool, I can lower the component by however much I need. And right now, this is 3/8. And as I pull this blue arrow up, you can see this gray plane. That's the 0 plane, right? So I want to pull it back to where I'm just past the front curve of the model here. And I'm gonna, that's almost 7/8 of an inch of that model that I'm removing, right? But my shape and everything is already there. I just need to get rid of that excess meat and everything because I want to be able to put text and everything in here, and I want a nice look. So when I'm in here, when we're looking at this, you won't be able to tell that, that material is gone, but I'm going to be taking all this material off because it served its purpose, for the shape and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that, and it's going to reduce the model by that height. It's going to take that off. Okay. And let's go back, close the tool. Still got my model, still got my shape, but I've taken a lot of that meat off the back, right? Now I can turn my frame and my backboard back on. Okay. All right. Now I want to put some text right here. And let's do that now. So I'm going to go into the text tool. I'd like to have a nice little font that has some style to it. Let me see. Let me go to the 2D view and let's take a look at what we have here. All right. So for the text, I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to break it into text lines, 2 separate lines. For the ZL1, not that. Oh, definitely not that. I want something that looks, not that. Something that stands out, but this is where wordmark.it comes into play. Wordmark.it is a great site for helping you choose the fonts for your creative projects. I do not want it to be script. All right, now for the name. Let me see what my royal signage font looks like. Get down to the R's. All right, now on this is going to be a model as well. And so we're going to go into the Create Shape tool. And I want this to have a flat top, rounded edges. They could be chamfered too. We'll look at it both ways, but rounded edges. And then the we can change the position and everything as well too. So I might change where the text is located. Getting some suggestions there. All right. Let's first look at a curved profile, 90 degrees, full on 90 degrees like a dome. But the base height's only going to be 1/8 of an inch. But I want to limit the height, meaning when it starts to dome, I want it to start to flatten off at a certain height. So it's going to create that rounded over edge. So that's going to be about 1/16 of an inch. And so when I bring that in and everything, if we take a look at it, it will have that flat top, but those rounded over edges. Now we're going to add a little bit of a flare too, so it's not so straight. That's called a draft. But let me see if I can change things up a little bit. Bear with me just a second. I'm going to hit reset. I need to add one more bit of text. And I want once again to break this up into 2 lines. God help me. Did I spell Camaro right? I think that's correct. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank there. Trying to find that just that right size, that right size and look. Using that up arrow key, we'll bump that up. I don't know if I want that on top or bottom, but let's slide this over and we'll put it all in one line. I'll use the alignment tool to get me centered there. And let's just fix that right now. In the text tool. Don't want it too overpowering, but I want something there. All right. For the love of the game. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's go back into our shape tool. Go back into our 3D view here. Curved profile, 1/8 of an inch text height, limit to height, meaning that height of the shape, not the base height, the shape. So as it starts, when it gets up to a 1/16 of an inch, it's going to curve over and it's going to create that round over. All right. Now I'd like to have a little bit of a draft on this text. So here's what we're going to do. Again, I'm a big advocate of keeping my originals and then intact and everything. So I'm going to insert a new level. And then off the visible model, I'm going to create a new component, a new model from the visible model. So it's going to create a brand new model here. And then I can turn off these, but not yet. Sorry, hold on one second. That was a goofy, I'm such a goofball. Let me delete that. I need to create a visible model just on the text. So let's try that one more time. On here, I'm going to be turning off the car and the frame. I just want the text visible, but I want to keep it intact as my original. And so I'm going to make a copy of it. So with this, I'm going to create a copy of that visible model. Now I can go ahead and turn this off, and I'm going to add a draft just to the text. And Nikki's up there, so we're going to go draft. And I'm not going to go 22 degrees. That's going to be a bit much. It'll start to blend the letters into one another. I really don't want that. I just want a nice angle. So let's see what 15 will do for me. Thank you, Roger S. I appreciate that. And Roger S., remind me when we have our private class coming up in a couple of days, I believe, remind me to give you the model of the project I made for you in class the other night. All right, so what we should be able to see here is, I'll go to 22. I want you to really look at, I don't know how well it translates or shows up on camera, but as it creates that draft angle and everything, what it's doing is just adding that draft here, right? And so that slight angle instead of a straight meet. So if I come in and I change this, let me get up close and personal here, back to 15, you'll see it go back to the straight letters that it was in the reset right there. And then it'll add that angle, right? So basically this is kind of angle up and then it's rounding over. Now, if I wanted a nice sharp, instead of the round over, if I wanted nice sharp lines, then I could do an angular text on there as well. So I'm going to stick with the 15. But let me see. Let's take a look at what that would look like with angular draft, or not draft, but edges instead of rounded over edges. So let's take a quick look, because the sharper edges might look better inside, you know, on these little standouts. So let's turn off this model and let's go back to our original text. No, not our original text. Let's just go back to our 2D view. That's what I'm trying to say. And on our 2D view, let's select the text again. We're going to create a brand new component. This time we're going to go with an angle. And so if I go with a 90-degree angle, right, and then I flatten it off, that'll give me kind of that sharp chamfer. And I could change my angles and everything, but I'll just go with a 90-degree angle, same 1/8 of an inch. This time, same 16th. And let's look at the 3D view when this gets created. Let's click apply. And so if we look, we have that kind of prismed look and everything. Now, inside and outside corners, I'm going to preserve them. Preserve the inside and outside corners. Let me click apply. That's going to keep them sharp in here instead of rounding them over and everything. So it'll keep them sharp. Let's go look at the, oops, I'm missing a word. Hold down that shift key, select that, and apply that with it. So that gives us that prismed look. Now, on these thin fonts, it doesn't look too hot. Let's reduce the angle a little bit. It's just the angle of the chamfer. And that gives us a little bit more meat. Now, I want a little bit more flatness on there. So I'm going to take that 16th here, and I'm going to bring it down. So a 32nd. What that should do is that should start to create the flat from the angle just a little bit more and give me more meat in there. Okay. All right. So now with that, I'll add the draft to that. Let's close this. So with that visible model, we'll add the draft, and I'll do the, you know, that angle is 30 degrees, right? So if I did 30 degrees, it would kind of just create, it would just continue on. So if I went, just as an example, so you could see, if I went 30 degrees here, this chamfer really wouldn't be much of a chamfer because it's going to extend out, right? You know, so I don't want to really do that. I'm going to kind of go 15 degrees. I want to keep that 15 degrees. And let it reset. So it's going to reset and then come back out. Now this will kind of be in a little bit more, so it'll give me that step down. And we'll zoom in. It's hard to see, but we have that 45 just at the 30-second when it flattens off, and then, you know, that chamfer out. All right, so this is the text. I like the sharper corners on that, so I'm going to go ahead and keep that. And then now I can turn on the rest of the model. Which will be the base component, or the frame, and then the base component. Okay. Now, with this, I'm going to, that's visible model. So I'm going to create one last time, create a new model from that visible model, create a new component. This is everything kind of combined together now. And then I'll just add one more level. I'll put that copy up there, and I'll turn off all those originals, kind of those different steps, right? Those different variations. I'll turn those off. And then let's take a look at that there. All right. So that is going to be our finished piece. Okay. Save, save, save. Someone said, absolutely. I've not saved one bit of this. Save early, save often. Don't do what I do, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget while you're in the middle of it, you know, and everything, because there is no auto save in this program. And if power were to die right now or something, we'd lose it, right? So let's not do that. So let's go ahead and save as. All right. And then I've still got some work to do for the most part, you know, to go in and clean up. I want to kind of just smooth some things out, manually sculpting. So sculpting is like sculpting clay, right? So you can add material, you can take away material, you can smudge material and smooth. And I just want to go in there and kind of finesse some of those areas and everything. And I want to just finesse that a bit. The font, Ronnie asked what font that is. That is Royal Signage. And that is Royal Signage. And that is from a font family. Hold on, I'll pull it up for you. It's the give me just a second. heritagetype.com. Let me get there. heritagetype.com. So this website right here, I have the vintage font bundle, which includes, oops, hold on a second. The vintage font bundle, which includes a font called Brilliant, Royal Signage. That's what that the name it was in. Black River, Old Alfie, Monrosa, and then some bonus, you know, font samples and stuff. Always on sale, and it's a beautiful bundle. I love it. So it's heritagetype.com, and it is the one that says our best deal, but it's the vintage font bundle is where that's from. And worth every penny. Absolutely every penny. Love it. Great fonts. Really, really good looking, you know, signage can come from them and stuff and all that. So that's that, Ronnie. All right. So with that, we have a frame and our text and 3D model. So the only thing left to do is create the Toolpath. Now, for the Toolpath, there is all this flat area in here. Okay. And I don't really need my small little tapered ball nose bit. I don't need my small little ball nose bit to do all that flat work. So I'm going to combine a 2D pocket toolpath with my 3D models to help kind of reduce some of the runtime a little bit and everything. And so here's what we're going to do. Very quickly, I'm going to come in and I'm going to select on the car model, and let's go back into my modeling tab here. Now, this is the copy of the visible model here, but I'm going to go back and turn on the individual models, the text and everything. Let me see here. So I want to select the cart. That should be just that one right there. Nope. Hold on. I got to go down to level 2. Da, 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 da. I just need to create a boundary around the car. So if I can select that car, the car's on level 1. There we go. I want to create a vector boundary around that because I already have the text, the fonts, right? But not the fonts with the draft. I have the original font text. So I want to create my vector boundary around the car. Got that. That's done. So it's right there. Okay. Now I want to go, let's turn that off. The text with the draft, I want to create a vector boundary around that. So select that, create the vector boundary around that. And then the frame already has my 2 vectors here, right? But I don't need that yet because I'm worried about what's inside the inside vector, this flat area. So now that I have all that, I can turn everything else off. Let's go back to the 3D view here or the 2D view, sorry. I want to select this boundary, the outside vector, that's that with the draft, and the vector of the car. Now, I'm going to be creating a pocket toolpath, but I need to know how deep the pocket is. Like, how deep is this pocket? So if I go in the 3D view and I hover my mouse here, the top of my model right here, the absolute very top of the model, and let's get into the top view here. This is 1.1264 here. Okay. Alexa, stop. Alexa's asking, I don't know that. Let's go look at my model position in the material. Make sure my model's at the top right here. Okay. So my model position in the material is here. Now, this area down here, this is negative from here, which is kind of just below 0, but this is 0.9351 inches deep, right? That's that base right there, 9351. From the top, that's how far down it is. And so my pocket cut that I'm going to be doing in here needs to be that deep. Okay, 0.9351. So when I select this vector, the outside vectors of the text, the boundary vector of the car, and I come in here and do my pocket cut, 0.9351. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch end mill and an 1/8 inch end mill. I want to add an extra tool in there. I want to do the majority of the work with the 1/4 inch end mill, and then clean up a little bit of the work with the 1/8 inch end mill, and then that'll be fine for that, because the rough cut and the finished cut will do the rest. So I want to get in there as tight as I can for the most part. So we're going to go ahead and calculate that toolpath. Now there's one open vector selected. That's that inside vector. So remember, I opened it when I was doing the 2-rail sweep. I got to go back and close that. So let's go back really quickly. Select that vector and go to the join tool and close it back up. Can't use it in the toolpath while it's open in this particular toolpath. You can use it in a profile and things like that. But let's once again select our vectors. And calculate. Now, I don't want it doing exactly what it's doing there. I didn't pay attention to my pocket settings. I don't want it doing an offset round and round. I want to raster cut it. I want to cut with the grain, less sanding for me. That round and round and round and round toolpath, I'm going to, no matter what, I'll see those marks and stuff. No matter how trammed I am, I'll get those little marks and all. I don't want to have to be sanding and stuff and touching up and in there. So I want to raster cut like a printer back and forth. So let's go ahead and recalculate that for sure. It turned off the vector around the letters. Let me see. Someone said it turned off the vector around the letters. That might have been earlier. Okay. Thanks, John. So what this is going to do now on my blank board here, right? This is going to mill in a 2D mill cut. It's going to mill away all that excess material, right? It's going to mill all that excess material, all that flat work and everything. I don't need my little 16th inch or 32nd inch tapered ball nose doing this flat work by any means. Okay. Now I'm going to continue with these vectors selected, but now I'm going to select this outside vector as well. And I'm going to calculate my 3D rough cut. Now this is going to focus on the 3D areas only, using the selected vectors as the boundary. No boundary offset. I don't want to go past the boundary on this. It's going to just focus on removing that rough material. And so we'll preview this visible cut. Now on this one, technically this frame right here, that back and forth, that's going to be a lot of run time right there. That bit going back and forth, rastering here, right? Inside, okay. This probably would like that as a raster cut or an offset cut around to be just a little bit quicker. So I'm going to go back and open that rough cut up again. I'm going to deselect these two vectors here and recalculate. Okay. And then I'm going to go in to select just these two vectors and do another 3D rough. It's still going to raster. So I could have probably just left it all in there. Yeah, it's still going to raster that way. That's all right. All right. And then we'll do a 3D finish. So once again, let me select the vectors. Now, on the 3D finish, I'm going to let the bit go past the lines by 1/8 of an inch. Now, for the bit, I'm using a 16th inch tapered ball nose. I'll probably go ahead and I really want to get the best detail that I can. So I'll probably go ahead and swap out that 16 with a 32nd. I don't need the six. I don't need to do both. It's just a small area. So let's take out that one. I want to raster. Calculate. I could have probably did both, but why? All right. Are you having a members class tomorrow night, or is it moved to another night? No, members class is tomorrow night, Wednesday night. We're going to 7:30. It's only going to be on the 24th. If Garrett's still having me, because I got to send Garrett all my media stuff so he can start promoting it. If I've given him enough time to promote it and everything, and he's still going to have me on the 24th, then that Wednesday night will get moved to another night. But other than that, yes, John, we'll have a class tomorrow night. All right, so that is calculating. And then once that's done, it's almost done. It's calculating, and then we'll preview it. And that'll be that, ladies and gentlemen. So almost there. All right, so now we'll go ahead and preview the visible toolpaths. Let's turn off the finish first. Preview the visible toolpath on the roughs. Roughs, I say roughs because I didn't need to separate it. I just keep it the same. But the rough toolpath will go in and hog away that waste material, right? And then the 3D finish will come in and do the final detail. Now I've got the tool turned off so you can't see the actual rastering of it and everything. You'll just see the end result. But I did that for, do that for class for time's sake and everything. If you like to watch it carve, when you're previewing, check the tool. All right, now we have a little bit of area right in here that needs to be cleaned up, and on the Camaro and everything. So on that boundary offset, I told you, I said it out loud. I said, I'm going to let the bit go past the line by 1/8 of an inch, but I didn't set it. On the finished cut, I want the bit to go past the line by 1/8 of an inch. I want it to blend in that pocket cut that we did earlier with the pocket toolpath. I want the edges of the Camaro, the edges of the text and everything to blend in with the that pocket area and everything. So we're going to let it go past by 1/8 of an inch. So we're going to calculate that toolpath once again. Let it calculate one more time. So when it did calculate, when it calculated, I didn't have that boundary offset set properly. I set it. out loud, but I didn't do it. All right. So all in all, we took a $2.50 model that still, it needs some work, right? There's still some work to be done. It's not 100% perfect yet. You know, it's not gift quality just yet. But a little bit of time cleaning it up and everything will be fine. But I could go back and, of course, you know, there's other higher end models that I can use and all. But I wanted to be able to demonstrate how we can go get a low poly model from places like Yegi.com and, you know, these 3D print models that are designed for 3D printing. And just by orientating them a certain way in our preview on our screen, when we orientate them in, we can create a carvable 2.5D model, a bas relief of this three-dimensional model. So I hope that it demonstrated that process and everything. And all in all, when it's all said and done, I mean, this is a nice looking, this would be a nice looking piece to hang on the wall when it gets finished and everything. And don't forget to square the corners. The corners, that's the one thing Woody Filter says, you know, on the upper left and the bottom, the lower right corners. When after we preview this, I'll go back and show you what Woody Withers is talking about in the comments section. Let me preview this toolpath. And what we should see is these little areas right in here get cleaned away, because the bit can now go past the lines of that vector, the vector boundary, right? And so it can go past that and clean that up and everything. And that's what we want and all. Now, let's go take a look at our corners here. And so you see this corner here and here. And this corner here, opposite corners and all. Now, in this vector, I have sharp corners for the two vectors that I used to create that swept profile. On that two rail sweep that I did way back in the original, beginning of it all, in the two rail sweep, I did not, that's not the two rail sweep. Let me go back to the two rail sweep here. There's not even an option for maintain square corners. But when it swept this profile around, it distorted that corner, that inside corner on both diagonal edges. It's a glitch in the matrix. So one of the things that I'll have to do is go in and, you know, probably do a single rail sweep with sharp corners, or fix that somehow, because it doesn't give me the option to create square corners, you know, and stuff in the two rail sweep tool. In the single rail sweep tool, create square corners is an option for me, so we can do that and everything. So what that would look like is I would come in here, and I know this is 1 inch. So if I come over here, and I'm just going to turn the model off just for a minute. Let's get out of the preview for a second. If I came back here and I created an offset inward, 1/2 inch, sharp corners, that gives me my center line. Okay. If I come into my modeling tool and use the single rail sweep on this and everything, when I select this profile, I can create square corners. Okay. And when I apply that to create that single rail sweep, it will give me the square corners that I need. Now I need to reverse my profile direction. So bear with me just a moment. Reverse the rail and hit apply again because I want it to go inward. But that gives me that mitered corner, right? And so with that mitered corner and everything, I can just simply step back, right? And what I mean by step back, it's not a far step, but you know, with this frame here having the mitered corners, I can simply step back to, let's turn off level 4. Let's come back to level 2. Turn off the frame component on level 2. Turn or drag this model down to level 2. And turn that one on. So I have those mitered square corners, right? And then I could just simply go back through the process. So I can turn the text on. Right? The height of that model component there, let me back that down just a teensy bit. And then with those components all back on, right, I can simply, once again, that's why I keep the originals. That's why I don't screw them. Now I can just create a new component of the visible component here, right? And then with that, I can turn off my originals again. And it's a simple fix, right? So turn off those originals. I've got my copy here. And with that copy, nothing's changed as far as my vectors are concerned. Still my inside and outside vector and all that. So I can sit here and recalculate the toolpaths because the toolpaths are calculated off the vectors. Right? And then we're done. Save, and then we're done. So the 3D, the pockets calculated, the 3D rough and 3D finish are calculating. It'll take just a few seconds, but in the meantime, let me see if I missed any questions. So Woody Withers, thanks for bringing that to my attention. And it was a simple fix. And that's why I keep the levels and I keep creating that component off the visible model, right? So my originals stay intact, where it's just as simple with something like that. I could create that new frame go back just a couple of steps and turn on my text, turn on the car, turn on the backboard with the new frame. Boom, the model's repaired, and then create my new component and then just recalculate the toolpath, right? Simple as that. All right. Let me turn off. Well, it's still calculating. It won't let me turn off. I'll save in just a minute. Thanks for reminding me. John is great about reminding me because he knows. John's one of my exclusive members, paid members, John Thompson. And he knows from my the private class and this class. I always forget to save. I get into it and forget. Let's hit save right now. And then we'll take a look at the preview. Definitely am forgetful. Got that smirk going on. All right, so the save is done. Let's turn that off and go back to the 3D view. The recalculation is complete. So we can go in and reset the preview and just preview all toolpaths. Once again, our pocket cut is just a 2D cut to kind of speed things up to get everything down to that new level. And the 3D rough didn't need to make 2 toolpaths. 1 toolpath would have been suffice for that. That'll hog away the waste material and then the 3D finish. All right. So now we have our, nice, sharp, clean corners and everything. With the model, let's see here. I don't know what it looks like when we turn the light on. Light follows user. Nah, let's turn that off. There we go. All right, so that is our 3D model, ladies and gentlemen. That is embossing, using that emboss tool. So once again, just to go back and reiterate, with the emboss tool, 1%, when you're doing something like this, that 3D model, 1%, bring that slider all the way to 1%. It'll still give you the most detail, but in a way that looks good. That's not too much to deal with. We are dealing with a low poly model in this case, so a lot of triangulation. And if you were working with a higher resolution model, that wouldn't really be a concern or an issue. It would be a non-issue. We would have just been done. Wouldn't have to go back and sculpt and clean up or none of that stuff. In the emboss tool, don't smooth over 10%. Save your smoothing and stuff for your sculpting, for your regular smoothing tool outside once that top layer, that skin is put on the base. And then do your smoothing and stuff outside of that emboss tool. So up to 10%. Those 2 tips right there should get you pretty much bang on 99% of the time, anytime you're doing something like that. All right. So, yeah, I think it'll be a nice looking plaque. I think it'll be a nice looking, thing to hang on a wall. I'll have a really nice wood. I'm not going to I want the detail to really come out, right? So I'll probably use a lighter wood for this. So the detail really comes out. If I use a walnut or something like that, it might hide some of the detail. I may, it could be like a maple or something along those lines. Now, carve time, it's going to vary based on the machine time of you know, the project and everything. Let me make sure that my vectors are still intact for my 3D finish. Bear with me just a second here. This model project is 24 by 18. I'm using a 32nd inch tapered ball nose with a 64th inch tip. Bear with me just a second. Let me make sure my vectors are still intact for that. It was. I am going to, that's 57 hours just for that. That's on my heavy duty line too. So let me speed some things up here really quickly. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to add in the, I said didn't need to and everything, but I'm going to add in which bit do I want to add in? I'm going to add in my 1/8 inch tapered ball nose. And I'm going to edit my tools. Oh, that's why that was running so long. All right, let me recalculate that really quickly, and then I'll give you my finished carve time on that. So I added in the 1/8 inch tapered ball nose to speed things up, you know, in the areas that it, you know, where it, you know, it's, and I'm using what's called now the rest machining. So instead of one tool, I'm using two tools. The 1/8 inch is going to do a majority of the work. That'll be the majority of the runtime. The 32nd inch is going to now do the rest machining, meaning everywhere that every bit of detail that the 1/8 inch bit couldn't get into, the rest of the design, the 32nd inch bit will get in there and do the rest machining. The, you know, minimal detail down to 2,000ths of an inch, and 3,000ths of an inch is a human hair, so just kind of in that range. So let that calculate one, and then I'll give you a final reading, and we'll say our good night. Say our good nights. I gotta go get a haircut. I got this big old, I feel like I got a buffet at the front of my every time I look at myself in the camera. Oh my God. It is calculating the rest machining right now. But let me see while that's calculating, let me see if there's any questions that that I might have missed. John says I need to add the flare to the tail end of the Camaro. I'll take a look at that. All right. So, well, not too bad. I didn't miss not a whole lot of questions. A lot of great comments from you all and everything. What my calculation time for some reason has slowed completely. Hold on a minute. It's still calculating. Adding in that tool and doing the rest machining. Did I confuse it or something? But while that's doing that real quick, one more time, we went to Yegi.com, and lots of different models from lots of different sources and everything, and lots of different pages and stuff and kits and all. If you are into 3D printing, great place to get models and stuff from. But for 2D carves and everything, like this particular model right here. Now, this is an SS model, 2018 SS model, not great quality. No, I'm not going to allow the cookies. I'll allow the cookies. Not great quality and everything, but it's free, right? You know, the quality of the model is lots of triangulation and everything, but this particular model is free, right? So thank you, Jack the Tinkerer, for the free model, right? So Yegi's pretty cool. Yegi.com, sorry, is pretty cool. The model that I'm working with, I paid $2. The one that was $5, there was just some detail that was missing on it. That's why I didn't spend $5 on it. But it's fine. We're back to where we are. All right, let's go ahead and look at our carve times now on this. And that 32nd inch bit is going in and kind of touching up where the 1/8 inch bit, you know, couldn't all get to as far as detail and everything. So what did that do to my run time? Did it make it astronomical or bring it down? So it brought it down from 57 hours to 15 hours, right? So altogether, this entire carve, start to finish, 25 hours and 25 minutes. A project that is 24 by 18 by 1.5 inches thick. And that's with, you know, I'm sure there's some things that I could go do to optimize and bring that down a bit. I could probably, let me see what my speeds and feeds are. Oh yeah, I've got a mixed combination. I got a mixed bag here of speeds and feeds for my 2440 and speeds of feeds for my 4848. So I'd go in and I'd readjust them and everything, so they're all pretty consistent. But you know, I can reduce that by probably another 10 hours or so. So probably about 15 to 20 hours on that carve, Keith, and everything. On the 2440 or the mini carver, you're probably in that 36 hour range, 36 to 40 hour range. But yeah. So I'll carve this. If I can get it finished and everything, I will, I'll show you guys a finished result. Want to clean up the car a little bit before I actually do the final carve, but yeah, that'll be that. Cool bean. The and the person that the person that this sign's getting made for sent me a text message saying, "Oh, I see, I'm not worth the $5 for the better model." That's funny, ladies and gentlemen. You don't know how funny that is. Anyway, the but we'll clean it up, make it look really good. All right, everybody. Well, listen, I want to thank you very much. Let me get myself back large again here. Large and in charge. I think that's the funniest thing in the world. But I want to thank you very much for your time, patience, and understanding and everything, and listening to me. And thanks for the helpful hints and tips and stuff for you guys and girls that are paying attention, right? So you're catching the things that I'm missing. And you're like, hey, remember to do this, or hey, what about this and everything? Because the tilt I think it was Brooks Martin that brought that up to me. I forgot to, I could just bake it and then re-tilt it, right, to get that tilt the way I want it and everything. Totally forgot that, right? And it's the little things that you forget over time. But has nothing to do with my age either. It's just, there's a little bit to do with the age. But no, all in all, it is, it's going to be a good looking sign. We'll see how that goes. Troy Pritchard, how is the shop coming along? So the shop is built. The shop is done, right, as far as built. And the shop is full of machines and things like that and stuff. Don't have electricity yet on that. Still waiting for the city of Ocala, the city engineer. So if you're watching city of Ocala, help me out and hurry up, please. But they've got to re-engineer to see how big of a transformer needs to be put out at the street to maintain the new power that I'm going to be demanding and everything. And then they've got to drop a pole on the property from that new transformer. And so the city engineer has been working on that for some time. The electricians are kind of on standby waiting. So we're still working on electric. In the meantime, I purchased a 4848 CNC, and I've got it in my original building with my 2440. So both of those are in production right now while we're working on getting the final electrical and everything knocked out on the building. Thanks for asking. I appreciate that. But man, I'm going to be so happy when I can make the transition and just spread my, arms a little bit and be able to walk around. I can walk around now. I cleaned out. I took everything out of the small shop, put it in the big shop, all the machinery and stuff like that. And there's only 2 CNC machines and a drum sander in the small building now. So it's strictly just producing. And then we're working on just kind of organizing and setting up the bigger building while we're waiting for the electrical to get complete. And I'm doing all the electrical work as far as, inside and everything. The just got to wait for the city engineer to get the pole and everything so we can get that. So we just got to wait. All right, everybody. Until next time, thank you very much for joining me. Y'all have a wonderful evening. I'll see you soon.